Good morning, my name is Giorgia Gatta and I am going to show you the results of the research Historical Geographic Information System for the study of waterways, the case of Bologna as ancient city of waters, carried out by me and the Professor Gabriele Bitelli from the Department of Civil, Chemical, Environmental and Materials Engineering of the University of Bologna. The science of geomatics provides useful work tools to manage historical cartography, including acquisition instruments and methods, georeferencing procedures, tools for the study of the metric fidelity of the maps, and geographic information system procedures for spatial analysis and representation. The creation of historical GIS is a way to integrate ancient maps with historical data of various kinds and compare them with the current reality, thus constituting a precious instrument for the study of the historical landscape as a whole or according to specific issues. In its context, a very interesting topic is the study of urban change associated with historical reconstruction of ancient waterways. The present study provides an example of the use of the geometric techniques, GIS in particular, for the study of ancient waterways using historical cartography and other archive sources. In particular, it aims to reconstruct the ancient water network of Bologna using some 18th and 19th century maps of Bologna, georeferenced on the current cartography, together with other archive sources such as drawings, photos, and news taken from ancient gazettes. This is a very beautiful map of Bologna dating 1702, remade in the 80s, with a scenographic view of the city. As it's possible to see in the map zooms, a city very different from today's one emerges. Not so much for the buildings in the central core, many of which have remained unchanged until today, but especially for the system of waters. In fact, until the beginning of the 20th century, Bologna was a city of waters, characterized by a grandiose hydraulic system with three channels: the Sabina and the Reno artificial channels, and the Aposan natural channel, several silk mills, sewer systems, water wheels, and a port. This system had become necessary a few centuries earlier, around the 12th century, when the aqueduct built by the Romans to serve the city, taking drinking water from the Seta River, fell into disrepair, and it had become therefore necessary to build artificial water channels to withdraw water from the two most important rivers that flowed and still flow in the city areas, the Sabina and the Reno. Over time, the water network was completed by numerous other elements such as channels, drains, and diversions of minor water. Today, very little of this great water network has remained because most of the waterways were buried at the beginning of the 20th century. Anyway, ancient maps of Bologna, together with other archival sources, such as ancient views and news, suitably managed in a GIS environment, are able to give us the image of the ancient city of that time. Post the construction of the historical GIS, some historical maps of Bologna dating back to the 18th and 19th centuries were used. The first map, drawn by Filippo de Nudi in the 1702, is a scenographic map. The second one, realized by Monari and Laghi in the 1711-12 for technical purposes, the calculation and measurement of the streets to be paved, is the first flat representation of the city, that is without drawing of the building facades, and it is very useful for the study of the ancient place names. Finally, the other maps are part of the Gregorian Cadastre of Bologna, the primary map dating back to just before 1831, with successive updates until the first years of the 20th century. In order to use the historical maps as a cartographic base in the GIS, a georeferencing process was performed, assigning object coordinates in a modern cartographic system to the image system. The digitized historical document is given a metric content. Here are the results of this process on the three main maps. The maps were georeferenced using a high number of ground control points, referring to buildings still existent today, selected after a careful research basing on historical documentation related to each building. The modern coordinates were taken from the current large-scale numerical map of Bologna. The geometric transformation used for georeferencing was the second-order polynomial transformation. The results of the georeferencing process for the various maps are summarized in the table. After georeferencing, in a geographic information system, the superimposition of the ancient maps on the current ones is possible. This is the current numerical map of the municipality used as a reference for georeferencing. This is the georeferenced first map superimposed on the current one. This is the second one. And this is the third one. Another significant product that can be derived in a digital environment, GIS in particular, is vectorization of features on the map. In order to carry out a specific study on water networks, in particular referring to the 18th century, places, streets, and especially waterways were extrapolated from the map dating back to 1711–12 by means of a vectorization process in a GIS environment. Concerning the bare waterways, the objects of interest were recognized on the georeferenced second map, and a different color was assigned to them to distinguish between the different kinds, rivers, channels, drains, minerals, and so on, together with the name that can be read on the map. The use of the 1711–12 map instead of the 1702 map is dictated by its higher level of precision due to the aim for which it was realized. If necessary, the other maps, the Gregorian Cadastre in particular, co-registered with each other, were used to distinguish between the different kinds of waterways. Interesting is the presence in the place names of many streets which referred, and in many cases still refer today, to water. For instance, Fontanina, Molinella, Via del Porto, Via di Riva di Reno, Via delle Moline. Even this fact alone denotes the importance of waters in the Bologna of the 18th century. The second kind of data in the study used together with the historical maps to construct the historical GIS is composed by 18th and 19th century views of the city. Many ancient drawings, engravings, postcards, and photos are today preserved in many Bolognese institutions, and frequently they are made available online. Some examples are shown here. Different drawings inherent to the waters were collected, and in order to give a direct comparison with today, for each of them a current photo was taken, as far as possible from the same position and with the same direction of sight of the ancient view. As an example, in the figure, an ancient view of the pepper factories in the Cavadizzo area, today no longer existent, is reported, together with a current image of the same area. In a GIS, for each photo comparison which was created, the theoretical viewpoint was recognized on the historical maps and highlighted by a vector point from which the photo comparison can be retrieved together with information on the historical view. Finally, the third kind of data is given by news derived from an ancient manuscript Gazette of Bologna named Avvisi that circulated in the first decades of the 18th century, from 1716 to 1729. It was a gazette intended for the public, reporting events of the nobility, crimes, religious events, economics, private facts, and so on. It was a weekly issue, about 10 news for issue, distributed to subscribers. The Gazette, collected by Bitelli in his Memorie Antiche Manuscritte di Bologna, is today preserved at the University Library of Bologna and made available online by Carlos Caracciolo. As an example, a news dating November 5, 1718 concerning waters is here reported. For the aim of the present study, some news inherent to waters has been selected and georeferenced on the historical maps, basing on the place reported on each news. From the large number of news that deal with the topic of water in various ways, in particular floods, it emerges how important the issue of water was in the Bologna of the 18th century. As an example, in the previous news, the relevant place names were highlighted and localized on the current and the georeferenced ancient maps. The news were categorized by location, when possible, and time, and collected in a database. Therefore, in a GIS, the database was linked to the places recognized and vectorized on the ancient map, this way associating to the vector elements data extracted from the news. In this way, it's possible to visualize the news according, for instance, to the category of news, as in the example, or the date, or search for them according to specific criteria. The historical maps, once georeferenced and vectorized in the object of interest, and the archived data, once collected and organized, have been merged in one GIS. The maps constitute the cartographic reference on the base of which it was possible to place views and news by means of vector layers. The enrichment of the planimetric representation given by the maps with archived data returns a more realistic image of the ancient city, in particular with reference to the Waterways topic. These assume on a portion of city that has been subject to significant changes over time. From the green star, an ancient news can be retrieved and read, and from the arrows, ancient views can be visualized and compared with the current view. Here, the vector layers are superimposed on a current map, showing the great differences between the 18th century city and today. The study shows the creation of a historical GIS focused on the theme of waters for the rediscovery of the Bologna in the 18th century through historical maps georeferenced in a common modern reference system and archive sources, drawings and gazettes located on the maps according to the viewpoint for the drawings or the place referring to for the news. The GIS allows an intuitive and immediate access to historical maps from the beginning of the 18th century up to today, together with images of the city that no longer exist, and news that let us know some aspects of the historical social dynamics, otherwise difficult to understand. It offers a new look at the ancient city of waters, highlighting very clearly the importance that water played for the city only a few centuries ago. Combining different kinds of data, the GIS environment results a useful tool for the study of the evolution of the city and the rediscovery of its history, for research purposes as well as tourism promotion purposes. Thank you for the attention.